Hello, and thank you for buying Michael's Textureland. I get a lot of questions about how I use textures, and there's really just a very simple process I go through. And the purpose of this video is to show you not only how to apply a texture to an image, but also how to use the action that I include on the disk. So what you need to do, first of all, is you need to load your action into your Photoshop Actions palette. If you don't know how to do that, just make sure that you've got the action copied to your computer, and then just go into your Actions palette here and click on the little triangle up here and click on Load Actions, and just browse to find wherever you put your action on your computer and click on Load, and it'll bring it right into your Actions palette. So, okay, how do we add a texture and how do we use this action? First thing I like to do is I like to pick the texture that I want to do. Looking at this image, this is an image I shot at a recent workshop, and it's pretty cool. We shot it in full sun. It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever it was. I was demonstrating how to use flash outside in full sun. That is the sun behind them. I think it's, the image is nice the way it is, but it could be kind of cool and hip and whatever if we drop a texture on it. So what I always do is I pull up my textures in Bridge and just take a look at the different options and try to find some that I think are going to look pretty good on this. Now, luckily for you, I've already picked 2 that I think would work. So let's go back to Photoshop. And first thing you do is you open up your action, which we have over here, and you open up your texture. I like this. I kind of want to have like kind of a grainy, warm tone on this, and I figured this texture is going to help me accomplish that. For some reason, with the stance they're giving me and the sun in the sky, I'm thinking high noon, Old West. Don't know why. Can't explain the creative process, but that's what I'm thinking. So that's why I'm grabbing this texture. So you open up your texture, you just simply drag it onto your other image. You can close this texture at this point, and then you run your action. What your action is going to do is it's going to allow you to size the texture to fit the image. And what's cool about these textures is they don't have to be perfect, but you do pretty much need to cover the entire image. And you can just, kind of drag things back and forth and decide, what part of the texture you want to use. I've got this little edge on this left-hand side. I'm going to drag it off and not use that. And just go like that. Once I've got the texture where I want it, I just hit Enter. And the action will go through and create a group. The important thing about this is one of the problems I've seen with a lot of textures is you put the texture on the image and it just really screws up the skin. So then you mask it, try to take the texture off the skin, but all of a sudden you lose the tone, the color shift or the color tone that the texture gave you for the entire image. It's off the skin now and it looks weird. Well, what built into the action is the ability to keep the texture across everything else in the image while being able to mask the texture off of the skin only, and then maintain the same color tone. So what we do is we just make sure that we're working on the mask here, and it automatically brings up your brush tool. Just double check and make sure that you're painting with white. I typically will make sure I'm just at 100% because I want to get all that texture off the skin because usually it looks pretty bad. And we're going to zoom in. I'm going to show you what I mean. Yeah, it looks like they got hit with smallpox. So that's not a look you typically want to go for. So all we're going to do is we're just going to go in here and we're going to quickly paint off where we don't want that texture to show up. And I definitely don't want it on the skin. I definitely don't want it on the eyes. It's a miracle! We've cured them of smallpox! Just want to get it off. Oh my gosh, the hands are really bad too. So we just want to get it off the skin. And then the next question is, do you want to take it down a little bit on the clothing? A lot of times, yes. So I'll go to like a 20 or 30% brush and just give it a couple swipes on the clothing. Get off the hair. You want a little bit of that texture to come through. Otherwise, again, it looks like they're a little bit cut out. And this is kind of a nice look for that. I kind of like that. I like that. I like that graininess up here in the sky. It's cool. And typically, where we start with textures when we're doing textures is we put them on a layer blend called overlay. Overlay, more often than not, will be your best look. If you're not sure if you like that look, you just highlight your blend mode, and you can just start clicking through it with up and down with your up and down arrows and see if there's something you like better. And typically you're going to find overlay or soft light are going to be your best looks. Sometimes hard light will be a good look for your texture, but we typically just start with overlay. Overlay is basically good to go about 70, 80, maybe even 90% of the time. So that's how this particular texture looks. Let's just do one more to show you an option. So I'm just going to blow that whole group out. And we're going to start from scratch. I grabbed a different texture here. And you'll see in Textureland that some of my textures have a lot of texture and a lot of grain to them. Some of them actually look blurred, and they are blurred because I found that sometimes I like a look that's a little softer, and this is a particular example of that. So I'm going to grab this texture, I'm going to drop it in, and go ahead and close that texture out, and I'm going to run my action again, get everything to be where I want it to be size-wise, and drag it over, and I hit return. And there you are. I kind of like what's going on in the sky better with this particular texture. And that's the weird thing about textures. You're never sure exactly what you're going to get on any given image. It may be a texture you've worked with a lot, and you may kind of get an idea what it's going to do, but then you may be surprised. And that's one of the reasons why I have so many textures in Textureland, because you need some options. Because you can't use the same texture over and over on images. It's going to look different, but you're also going to get the sameness to a certain extent. So try different textures. I'm going to go in and I'm going to paint this texture off the skin again. And you'll see, because this particular texture was a little bit blurred, the skin is not so bad. We still got that texture in the highlights and in the shadows, but the skin's not horrible. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to flip back to 100% and just get it off their skin. It just looks like they got a minor skin disease, so we just want to clear that up for them. It's like Clearasil. Get off the skin, and then you just want to take a look at the image and see if there's any other places where you want to reduce the effect of the texture or take it off entirely. This, I like what's going on in the sky. I like that feel. It's almost got a painted feel. I think I'm going to keep that. So, coming back to how you use the action, just make sure that after you've done your retouching or whatever you're doing to your image, you flatten everything down and you're working with the background layer. You open up your texture, you drag it on, and then you just run the action and paint off in the mask whatever you don't want to have on the skin. And that's the simplicity of using my Textureland textures and my Textureland action.